good.
Well, I'm already on a whiskey, and you're on how many whiskeys?
Don't fucking worry about me. Okay?
Drinking before the interview, you piece of shit. Anyways,
You postponed when we were starting. It's your fault.
I have a family. God damn it. Anyways, welcome everybody to another episode of the WASD and Beyond podcast. I'm your host Nick. This is Brody, your other host. That's right, your other host who's been drinking tonight.
Yes. And I blew you
Nice.
all a kiss if you're listening to the audio podcast.
We are your hosts, Nick and Brody. This week we are accompanied by Alex Osborne, or Ozzy. What do you want to go by?
Just whatever you want to call me, it's fine.
I think when I
I
was
got
on spaghetti, I was drunk at the end of the spaghetti because we were just having a good time. Shut up, Brody.
Oh, come on now.
That was halfway through their show. I got
fucking
drunk.
hypocrite.
That was halfway through their show.
When was that? I was trying to recall when that was.
About a year ago.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right. Because
Yeah.
normally we typically have a bunch of guests the month of August.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, about a year ago. We were rolling, and I had my mini fridge
Well,
right under my desk. Oh,
had
yeah.
I launched the first Kickstarter yet?
You were getting ready to.
Then it would have been longer than a year ago because I launched it in May of 2023.
Fuck. Yeah, so it was damn, that's wild, dude.
Year and a half.
It may have
Probably
been 2
somewhere in
years
there.
ago, dude.
Holy
I was
shit.
in this room, and I've been in this house for 2 years now. So that's fucking crazy.
I'll have to go back and look, but it's longer than you think, I believe.
That's fucking wild.
Because I went to Canada in March of this year, so
Okay.
I don't know if that was brought up.
No, absolutely
Because
not.
I'd been planning that trip for 2 years. So, but yeah. Anyways, the Kickstarter sort of kind of happened really quickly. So I
Right.
don't know if it was something that
No, I think
it happened quickly, but it didn't happen quickly. If that makes sense.
You know what though? You were showing me the Polardestroyer bust
Okay.
when I was on the show.
Okay.
So that's
The unpainted one.
unpainted.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it wasn't painted till 2 weeks before I had to ship it out.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh,
Uh,
damn.
But yes, we have Alex Osborne on the show with us this week to talk about his comic Polar Destroyer and Polar Destroyer issue 2 that will be on Kickstarter very soon. Before we get into all of that though and let Alex tell you guys exactly who he is and what he's talking about this week. This whiskey is kicking my ass in the stomach area. I'm not drunk. It's just killing me in the stomach. We are sponsored by Final Boss and LONGY. Check them both out. They both have amazing drops up. Final Boss has all of their leftover merch on the website, and LONGY has 2 shirts, a Mac Miller shirt and a Biggie Small shirt. Quite the fucking mix. Both awesome shirts. Also, while you're at it, please hop into the Spawn Camp community Discord. It is a free Discord, no paywalls, always free to hang out with us. Creators who charge you to hang out with them are a sham and a bunch of dickheads. Come hang out for free, watch movies, watch TV, play video games, D&D, Magic the Gathering is popping off in the server. We have spent a lot of money in the past couple weeks on Magic the Gathering, and I hate myself, and my wife does not like me
I
for
also
that.
hate you.
What happened?
Throwing that out there.
We'll get into some magic
No,
talk.
no, no. The whole magic. Not this episode. It's your
No?
fault.
Okay.
That's where we'll leave it. It's your fault.
Well,
Just have to clarify that.
if you want to hear Brody yell at me, hop in the server. It's free. Thank you all for tuning in. Alex, dude,
Yes.
I'm going to be robotic for 2 seconds. Typical host. Please tell everybody exactly who you are and what you're working on and what Polar Destroyer is.
That's a loaded question.
It is.
Who I am. Who are you? It's like the scene from the Breakfast Club. Who are you?
God damn it. This is why we can't have other podcast hosts on because they could see through the fucking screen right there. They're like,
Yeah, they're like, "Fuck you, Nick."
Dude, just ask the
here we
fucking
are.
questions.
Well, I'll just move on to I'm a podcast host, I guess. I mean, that is technically true. I'm a comic book writer, which is also technically true. Sometimes imposter syndrome kicks in, but I don't like labels, so it's I don't know. I'm just doing this thing. Why do I have to fit into this little box of things? But whatever. I host a podcast with my friend Jacob called "What's Your Spaghetti Policy," and it is a shoot your shit nonsensical podcast. We will. I don't know when this goes out, but we've done 269 episodes. We've never missed a week. I can't believe we're still doing it. And I am currently working on Polar Destroyer issue 2 Kickstarter. I'm trying to finish up all that stuff. the plan is to launch it in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I did my first Kickstarter last year for issue 1, which was it was quite a journey, and it was something that had been in my brain for like 10 years, and it took about what really happened. If you want me to go ahead and get into it, I
Yeah,
can
dude,
tell you.
absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
So in 2022, actually, I'll go back further. I was working a retail job, as you do. I'm in my mid 20s, shit job. It's like freight day, and in my department, I was just one of those things that you sort of like pass time. Like you're riffing and like like talking about shit, and like this idea had come across of like, dude, like because like Game of Thrones was really big, and it's
Yeah.
just like everyone was like had the like the wintry like feel of things. It's like, oh, that'd be really cool, whatever. And I was like, man, what if you had this like polar bear, but he was like kind of like half cyborg, kind of like a mix of like Terminator and like Rambo, but he's in the North Pole and he's fighting penguins. And like my original concept was like that'd be cool as like a video game because I was like really into Shank at that point, and Shank 2, I don't know if you've played it. It's like a really violent like side scroller like
Yeah.
beat 'em up. And but that art style in particular is like what I was shooting for. So it's like, this is really cool. So like we were just saying shooting the shit or whatever, and it was just one of those things that never left my brain. So much so that like I had sort of like dabbled on the internet of like, oh, I need to find an artist that can do this. And I got a couple of pieces like I had this whole description, this character description of like who Jack was, and then I gave it to this guy, and like he did this sketch, and the original sketch, which is in the book, it's that like you had like tweeted earlier the original
The
sketch that was
pin.
done in 2015
Yeah.
by Rick, and it sort of is in the same vein as Batman the Animated Series. And I was like, well, this is rad. Okay, like I'm gonna go back to this guy and like give me another sketch. Like these were just like reference pieces, just like I had some like fun money that I wanted to like sort of like get it out of my head and onto like a visual like thing. And like, here and there I would just write, like an overall story arc and like, oh, this, that, and the other. And then fast forward to October of 2022, and I went to a local comic convention, like an old school comic convention that's in like a banquet hall sort of deal. And I saw, and like again, I want to preface, am not here to disparage anyone for like doing a thing because it is extremely, can I curse?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
extremely fucking hard to make a comic book. Like
Oh, I bet.
it is in like the amount of work that nobody knows that goes on, and the amount of things and scheduling and just like happenstance things that just go on are just unbelievable. But I saw this person who had a booth of and like all the stuff that they had done. It was fine, but it looked like something you would see on Kickstarter. And I was just like, dude, I can fucking do this. Like I can do this. Like it's time to just like fucking do it. Like just do it. And then so like had searched Reddit and found this guy named Hugo Toronzo, who ends up being the person who did all my interiors. And I don't know if you can see it. This was the piece right here that sort of set it all off, right? So I gave him my
Absolutely.
character description, right? And it's the front cover of the original, or it's the original cover. I should say regular cover. And we sort of negotiated back and forth about like, hey, what's your rate, like, what's your process, this, that, and the other. And you have to like, these are all things, even if you like read comics your whole life, there are just things in comics that you don't understand, and things, the layman is like, oh, you write a story, you give it to an artist, they do it, someone puts the letters in it and you print it. Is not how it works. Now that may be how it works for like big publishers, but that is not how it works when you're doing it yourself. um, and so we had like, went back and forth and discussed it, paid him for that. And that wasn't the intent of that being the cover, but it was more of a cost effective thing. I was like, well, I have it. We'll get a logo, throw it on there, throw a one on there, and it's fine. And then I just sort of like had it. I showed my wife. I didn't think anything of it. And then like she had like secretly got a frame and like printed it in like a really like high quality print and like handed it to me for Christmas that year. And I'm just like, all right, like I got to do it. Like that
Yeah.
was like the fucking kick in the ass. I was like, like let's do it. Let's try it. I've never done a Kickstarter before. I have no idea what I'm doing. Um, and then in February of 2023, I was like on Reddit and I found this guy named Eamon Winkle, who is that cover. He was a horror artist, and I was just like, dude, like I love your line work. I love like that aesthetic, and like I was like, you want to do a variant cover? And he was like, it's out of my wheelhouse, but I would love to try, and it's rad as fuck. It looks,
So dope.
like yeah, and I was like, okay, so I have two covers, and then I was like, now I got to start thinking of like what I'm gonna offer on a like Kickstarter pledges, and then like everything just starts snowballing. It's like I had set with it for 10 years, and then once you start going, like things just start to fall in place. And then I had paid for 4 pages myself, and then basically was very upfront with my Kickstarter. I was like, look, this Kickstarter is going to ease the burden of creation for me. Like I'll eat the cost of printing and everything else, but like this is to pay an artist, because I don't know if you guys know this. Art is very expensive,
Oh,
and
Yes.
really good art is really expensive. Um, and I never wanted to cut corners on anything that I did, because I never knew I didn't. If I had failed in that first one, I would go to bed knowing that, like, man, that sucks. But I put my absolute best foot forward, and there was like nothing else I could do. I gave it the best possible thing that I knew how to do, and it sort of just like all this surprisingly it did really well for a while. And then like you learn with Kickstarters, like your first one, like you watch it, you're just like every 15 minutes like, I gotta check who's back, to back, and it'll
Yeah.
fucking drive you insane. So don't do that if you ever do that. But really what the catalyst was, like, there's a whole debate on whether or not, like, skill versus luck and how people become successful. Well, success is determined by the individual, not by other people. But um all that to say is, I got where I was. Obviously, I had the benefit of an amazing friend group, and just meticulously getting on Twitter and just like doing that and promoting nonsense.
Hate it.
But the actual catalyst of why it got funded was my friend Ian, on a Sunday afternoon, randomly tweeted at Cliffy B, creator Gears of War, and Cliffy saw it, retweeted it, backed it, and his retweet to, like, 500,000 people put it over the edge. Like, without
That's
that tweet, I
awesome.
don't know if it gets funded. But that was sort of like the last push that I needed to get it funded. What the funny part is I ended up having him on my podcast later, and he had no recollection of any of this. But it became a joke. I'm like, and we've been, I wouldn't say we're like friends now, but like we're acquainted now, and hopefully he comes back for the second one. But again, that was all luck. That was all like absolute luck. Now, to some of the things that go into it, like, I had set the date to be delivery of October, launched it in May, thought that was enough time. It was not enough time. Um, for a multitude of reasons, one of them being that my artist is in Cuba and a hurricane hits. Okay. Then he loses his Mac for like 3 weeks. It crashes. And then there's a flood, and it's like all these things start happening. And then I think, truth be told, both of us got a little like rose tinted glasses, and we sort of took on more than we probably should have, because I was like, okay, he'll do the art and the lettering, I'll do everything else. Well, that was a mistake because I didn't know what I was doing. And then like the book gets delayed. It's not done in October. It's not done in November. It's not done in December. It's not done in January. And like the worst part of it all is I'm a very transparent person, almost to a fault. Like, I'll tell you, hey, it's not ready. Here's what's up. But I always provided updates at least once a month. And I was very honest and open about all the issues, which I think also helps and gave me some grace on some things, because also it's also being my first one. So then you learn a lot of things that you don't want to repeat on the second one. And you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because even if you make all these adjustments and all these things and you set a plan, that plan does not work. Because I had started things for issue 2 in April. It's going to be September before it launches. I'll let that speak for itself. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's just like life gets in the way sometimes. And it is unfortunate, but these are things that just happen, and they're frustrating. And the comic doesn't get made without a group of people, right? It takes a village. Um, and I'm an only child, and I am the product of a broken home. So I spent a lot of time by myself. So I had to learn how to do a lot of things on my own at a young age. And I'm very stubborn, and I'm very not spiteful, but like if you tell me I can't do something, like spite will drive me, right? And I like to be in control, especially when it comes to something that is mine. And I've had to learn a lot of lessons of like, well, I like not being able to be in control is one of the worst feelings in the world when it's something that is yours and something that you brought to life. But it is sort of the nature of the business, nature of the project itself. But ultimately, like I just did all this because I wanted to. Like there was no ulterior motive of like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Like I just wanted to do a Kickstarter. I just thought it'd be fun. It's stressful, but I was just like, fuck it, why not? Right? Why not do it? And I
Yeah.
did it. I did it. Sorry, it's very
So
long-winded. You can tell I have a podcast.
no,
Dude,
yeah,
fuck yeah.
you're absolutely fine,
The
man.
floor is yours, technically speaking, at this
Yeah,
point.
I mean, this is your episode. We're just here for, emotional support, I
Talking
guess.
heads. Yes.
But I did want to ask, so you kind of talked about, the Batman animated series being a big kind of proponent of as to why you chose a similar art style and kind of that vein, right?
Mhm.
But so why did you go with the purely focused like animal characters, right? Like I fucking dig it, don't get me wrong. But like the polar bear as the main character, the penguin as the main
Mhm.
antagonist, the like what was kind of the inspiration behind that? The character,
Well,
I suppose, right?
it's I don't actually have an answer for that. I think a lot of it has to do with, eh, the polar bear is like this, very predatory sort of like creature, right? That like sort of dwells in the North Pole. But if you think about it, penguins are not in the North Pole, right?
Right.
They're in the South Pole.
Yeah.
There's that whole thing too. But like it's a predator versus prey sort of thing. I found it to be a little bit easier. Also, like again, we were talking before this started with Ninja Turtles. Like,
Yeah.
again, why does the Ninja Turtles work? It shouldn't, but it does. And just like I've always sort of been gravitated towards like some like bipedal anthropomorphic like creatures. I don't know, it just like works.
Yeah.
And then like if as you read in the issue, like the polar bears are a little bit more primal in nature, whereas like the penguins, if you look at it through like, in real life, like they're kind of frail animals, they're birds. So like obviously you would lean into the tech aspect of everything. So it's tribalism, or not tribalism, but like tribal, like primitive versus like, technology and like cybernetics and that sort of thing. So like it just felt in a way like the penguins have to have a way to defeat the polar bear, right? Because like in a straight up fist fight, like it's not gonna work. And then like there's a ton of influences, Mortal Kombat being one of them, Rambo, Predator, Terminator, Commando, Turtles, like all like I'm a kid of the 90s and a product of the 80s is the way I like to describe it. So
Yeah.
like all of those things are like an amalgamation of like how this came to be. But I don't know. Like honestly, it was just like a polar bear with like
Yeah.
like a half cyborg polar bear. And like the elevator pitch is just like fuck yeah, that sounds awesome, right? Like it's just
Oh
like,
yeah.
and like you show the art to somebody, and like I will give Hugo a ton of credit because it's like comics are a visual medium, and I have always felt, and I've been told, and this is not me like, like putting myself over in wrestling terms, but I've always felt that my book looks like something that you would find on a shelf. A lot of Kickstarter books look the same, and that again, I'm not disparaging anybody. They all have a very similar look. A lot of them have like big tits, right? Mine has neither of those. My book looks like I don't want to say a real comic book because someone will get mad, but like it looks like a book that would be, published by, Boom Studios, or, even Image back in the day. Like it's I don't know. It's always had that. I feel like my art is a step above most indie books. So
So
I
yeah,
would
go on, buddy.
absolutely agree with that. Like, to me, the cyborg polar bear, which I mean, the polar bear is your apex predator of all predators, right? Like,
exactly.
they fucking win, right?
Right.
But you have these jacked penguins, the fucking bow tie, like everything about it. For whatever reason, again, I'm a huge Turtles fan, as we talked before
Yeah.
this as well. But like, it's one of those things that if you think about it, it seems weird, but it works
And it
so
shouldn't
well.
work.
Exactly. It just shouldn't work, but it works so well. And but I agree, like your art and everything, if while I was reading through it and everything, I it felt like a real comic book. It
Right.
and again, like not to disparage anybody by any means, but it didn't have that it didn't have an indie feel. It definitely felt like something that I would pick up from, you know, a Marvel or DC or something of that nature, where it had this very real feel. The fact that they were animals never felt off. It always just felt like this is what they are. Like it is you honestly you did a great job of really hammering that home without like making it a weird sticking point, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Hmm. It
But
feels natural.
yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing. He hates in his foreword. He'll tell you straight up. He hates compliments. So be careful. You're gonna scare him off.
Yeah,
Secondly,
yeah.
I've learned to accept them. They
No.
just they make me uncomfortable because
they
it's
make me feel
again,
icky.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
imposter syndrome because like I mean I should not have been able to do it. Is the but the thing like I should not. I'm just like I literally just
But
I'm
you
just a
did
dude.
though, and
I know.
you should be able to do
Absolutely.
this because I'm straight up. The term real comic book versus not real comic book is bullshit. This is a
Yeah,
real
Right.
physical fucking book that I
Yeah,
have
it
in
is.
my hands, and I'm gonna say straight up, the quality of this book is phenomenal.
yes.
The front cover and back cover, you usually get books that are so fucking flimsy and just
Hmm.
feel so fucking thin. I hate it. This, I picked it up and went, oh fuck. It's got
So
nice weight to it.
that's a thing you have to decide. Again, those are one of the things that no one takes into account when you go to get your book published or printed, I should say. Like what card stock do you use? What paper stock do you use? What kind of ink do you
Yep.
use? Like, let me ask you if because like everything is done almost digitally now and it's easier. Do you know like what the DPI should be on on a comic book
Absolutely
page?
not.
No, absolutely
300,
not.
300 DPI. And if you go certain publisher, I keep saying publishers, certain printers want a specific file type. So I had everything in a file type, and then at the very last minute, had to get everything saved into a TIFF file, and that was fun. Um, I mean, it was just a time consumption thing because it's like you're
Right.
doing all this. One thing I failed to mention too is like, you know, so the book got pushed back a couple times, and then like I was not feeling the letters. Like, you know, again, it
Mm,
was like one of those things where like I found somebody who was willing to do all of this, and I was just like, "Fuck yeah!" My own fault that I didn't sort of like look further or look
like
out
vets. Yeah,
because like honestly, like bad lettering can ruin a good book, man. Like if the
absolutely.
spacing is not right, if whatever. And you know, shout out to my friend Ben and the Geek Exploration podcast. He also has a Kickstarter and does his own comic books. In a pinch, like 3 weeks before I'm set to deliver this thing, I was like, I had relieved Hugo, who was doing the letters beforehand. I had relieved him of lettering, which actually worked out better because he was like, I don't want to. It's not that he didn't want to do it. It was just like,
Yeah.
this gives me a chance to focus and finish these pages
Right.
and not have to worry about that. And then Ben jumps in and like re-letters it all. And like, it just turned out like unbelievably good. Like, if you see the difference, and again, it's not anything against Hugo. It's just like, again, just again, her circumstance, happenstance, whatever. It just I made a call and the call worked
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you know with it being delayed too, it didn't really bother me all that much. It was like whatever, you know. And then like he just stepped up and was like, yeah, I'll do it. I need the practice to do lettering anyways. And I was like, all right, fuck yeah. And so it was awesome.
Well,
And
So
it works so well. Like
yeah.
the lettering in and of itself, like while you would think lettering is not a big deal in a comic book, it's huge. It
it
makes
is.
all of the difference. I mean, the art in it's that like you said the kind of the 90s kid type of thing. Like to me the art really screams that late 90s early 2000s comic book art, which I have a huge affinity for. Like that is my jam, and it works great. And then the lettering that he did for that is perfect. Like it
Yeah.
matches that to a T and really drives home everything. But you know, kind of like you were saying there, that if you aren't feeling that character or the letters, the characterization of those word boxes, right? Like that changes the entire vibe of the whole thing. And I really I do have to applaud the artists on this. They really did a great job, and the writing itself is fucking fantastic too. So
Thank you.
I know you don't want
No,
compliments, but that's
it's
what we
fine.
do. We're
You
gonna
can
just
give me
shower you with
compliments.
compliments, and you're just gonna have to take those feathers and put them in that sweet hat that you have.
Speaking of compliments, the one thing that stuck out, because like you brought up the '90s, boom, you brought up Boom, and then Image and shit like that. This would have been a comic I would have picked up. Like I'm telling you that right now. This isn't me fluffing you and anything like that. If I would have seen this piece on a rack
Yeah.
back at my local comic shop, I would have been like, "The fuck is that?" And I would have grabbed it. I could tell you right now because that's how I bumped into like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, Squee, Spawn,
Yeah.
the Max, all that. Like I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I grab it, open it up. These pages, when you open this book, it is so loud in a good way. Because and there's loud is not always good though. But with
Yeah.
this, it's that vibrancy, it's that bombastic fucking just like 90 it is that 90s feel that I love so fucking much. It's taking itself serious, but then it's also like, hey, we can go fucking over the top as well, like a 90s
Yeah.
action movie, and that is what I like to see in my comics. And I love serious books too. Like I
Same.
do love Sin City and things like that, but this right here is like a nice escape and a nice dive into the absurd that I
It's
love.
fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that ultimately, I think that it's in a roundabout way, comics themselves have stopped being fun, and there's always
Yes.
sort of like whatever. I mean, I still enjoy comics. I still go to the comic store weekly,
Wednesday,
but
baby.
but it just feels like sometimes that feeling of, and also like I don't know about you, but I'm tired of like multiverses and stuff. Like
Yeah, I'm done
sometimes I
with it.
just want to I just want to read a self-contained story, and but yeah, like what you were saying is what I was trying to lay down, and like I understand on the surface that like the story of this cyborg polar bear in the North Pole that's like out to like like mass murder a bunch of penguins in a tale of revenge
They started it.
in and of
Yeah.
itself they drew first
Well,
blood, right?
fuck
Yes.
those fucking penguins.
They or like that story, the premise is not serious, but I take this whole thing very seriously.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not a serious person, but I do treat this very seriously.
Yeah.
And like tonally, you kind of like learn, like I wanted it to be a bit of an homage to the 80s and stuff, but then like as I started writing, it became more serious in tone. Like there's still that, like you said, like those first 4 pages are very DBZ-esque, like that
Yes.
first fight.
Yeah.
And that was again to draw in people because those are the pages that I had done. And then like obviously we go back and like you sort of get the origins, and there's not a whole lot of jumping around in the series, like going forward. Like it's going to be from like you have the first 4 pages, and then everything else is like, and then we will revisit those first 4 pages in a later issue. But like everything is up to whatever, because like comics jump around a lot, and I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just all of it's just I said it's really weird too, because like I set with that story and like revised it and did all these things, and like you sort of like I started it as like a general consensus of like the grand story is 3 separate arcs, right? I
Okay.
mean, North Pole, South Pole, and then you do global. Will I ever get that far? I don't know. I'm focused on the first 5 issues right now. And I would obviously like to do this quicker, but like sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Um, and then I've had people's like, "Oh, what's your writing process?" Well, I don't know. I don't have one. Like I have built all 5 issues around a theme, and like each theme leads it. Like this is like issue 1 is the sort of origin of everything, right? And how he comes to be. And then like you establish the bad guys, you establish all these things, and there's little story branches here and there, but like we're not going in a ton of different directions. And then issue 2 is sort of your exposition, like we're kind of like sort of give the line of like, okay, like, we're setting roles here. There is a part that I'll get to that's like a big part of the Kickstarter in issue 2, and then like issue 3, like it revolves around this one big fight. Issue 4 is another big fight, and then number 5 is the conclusion and the finale and what happens. I am also a person who likes duality in a story where like even though you win, at what cost was it?
Right.
So and,
Mhm.
and like I don't know if you noticed this, but like there is a wolf that lives amongst the penguins. His name is
Yep.
Timber. I fucking love that character. And that was a character that, as much as I love Jack, obviously, but like Timber was one of those characters that as I was creating it, I just sort of kind of fell in love with it. And I use him and I equate him to my version of like Boba Fett, where you don't know a lot of things. Now, this is before the show came out, right? This is like the old school Boba Fett that everyone loved. And like, it's like this mysterious
Silent
creature.
type. Yep.
Yeah.
He's not silent. He's a real smarmy motherfucker, but like, why is this wolf? Because like theoretically, he should not be hanging out with the birds, and
Yeah.
like so. But there's a reason why, and like I've tossed around the idea of possibly doing a not an offshoot, but like maybe like a Tales of the Polar Destroyer universe, where
Mhm.
like you have two stories inside of one issue. I know how he gets there, and then in the issue 3, which is like would revolve around Timber and Jack himself. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but like that plays into that. But like, is it necessary? I don't think so. But like, it's hard to write. I'm not a big person. I'm not a big fan of like prequels either. And like, oh, you already know what happens to this character, so like, let's spend 2 issues and like give you this person's
Back
backstory.
in the past. Yeah.
I think you should do those at the same time, or at least whatever. People do their own thing, but all that to say is like I have structured things out, and then like when I wrote this stuff, it was like, okay, well, the first 4 pages are going to be this, and then like you got to end it with the cliffhanger, right? When we can talk about that, and
Yeah.
then like because like I think the it wasn't a complaint, but it was noted that like, oh, like I led a lot of this with like, it's a cyborg polar bear, but there's not a whole lot of cyborg polar bear in the first issue, and I get it, but it was intentional, right? It's
Yeah.
Gotta reel them
storytelling.
in.
You got to get there first.
Right.
But there's a whole lot more cyborg polar bear in the second issue. I can tell you that. It's all it's a lot. There's a lot. So
Yeah.
I don't know
And,
what the whole
and
point of that
and
was.
obviously, I mean, here we don't want to spoil the first fucking
Can we
book,
talk
right?
about
Like
the end of the first book though?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, do we want to? Because we want
yeah.
people
You
to buy
can.
this shit, right? Like, I mean,
Well,
I
I'll say it
mean,
right now.
like,
Buy the
uh,
fucking books.
yeah,
Buy
you
issue 1.
absolutely should buy it. It is very inexpensive and it
Look
supports
at
a great
this.
cause.
One more
Like,
again.
I mean,
One more
like
again.
this shit is so cool.
Gorgeous.
But okay, yeah, to not entirely spoil it, but I got to the end of the first book and it was one of those things that I was yearning for more,
uh-huh.
and it was kind of one of those, not a bad thing, but a frustrating thing where I was like, "Fuck, I want the second issue.
Yep.
Like I want this shit like right
Now.
now."
Yeah.
It was you did an exceptional job of planting that hook and just
Mhm.
really just sinking that shit, right? And I there's a lot of unknowns at the end of the first book. Again,
Sure.
I'm not gonna go into spoilers so
I
You
much,
will.
but if
can.
you want to, you're welcome to.
I mean, the book's been out for
But
like 6 months at this point, so it's
yeah,
fine.
that fair enough. So I
Ho
mean,
ho ho,
like
motherfucker.
we don't fully know this state of Martha. We don't fully. I mean, we know Jack is obviously going to come back with the
Junior.
cyborg aspect. The kind of gnome like Santa Claus type characters with
Mhm.
the elves and everything. Like, holy shit, man! I did not expect that. Like, there's so much good shit
It
in
is the
here that
North
I
Pole, right?
exactly right. Like, I didn't expect it, but it also makes so much sense that it's
Yeah,
just you planted that hook so well, and I genuinely at the again, it was like 31 pages including the foreword and everything
yeah,
else, right?
yep.
At the end of 31 pages, I'm like, oh fuck, that's it. Like,
I
god
know.
damn it, I have to wait for the second one. But
Yeah,
you did a great job on that. The story itself is really leading into so much. I can already tell. Like, you already have, the first 5 issues planned, I assume,
I
based
do.
on the way
Oh
you're
yeah.
talking about it, and maybe
They're not
even
all
more,
written,
right?
but I mean, 2
Yeah,
is completely done and written. 3 is about halfway.
yeah. I
Um,
Love it.
I work in a weird way because I did not start writing issue 2 until issue 1 was printed.
Oh,
I did that
really?
for a reason because when you are working with other people, things get changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wanted the thing to be a concrete done thing. Like this is the Bible, this does not change.
Yeah.
And we
Sick.
go from there. Now, ultimately, I didn't have to change a whole lot in the issue 2 going into it. And so like I still and like there's enough to where when I jump into full on because again, I'm fully focused on issue 2. I'm always thinking about other things. I'm always looking out for other artists and stuff. Like I'll see somebody and I'm like, damn, like this is I need this
Gotta
guy
get
for a
you.
cover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I'm fully focused on all the stuff that encapsulates issue 2 and like that's my focus. Um but yes, like to answer your question, yes, I have it all planned out.
Yeah. So I know you already kind of talked on like what your writing process is
Mhm.
to an extent. I mean, to the basically to the point of you just kind of go
Did
with
it.
it, right?
Just did it.
Yeah, right. What so how does that go with the actual like storyboard aspect of it with planning with the artists? Sitting down, talking to the artists themselves and being like, "This is what I need. I need this to be, the panel where he gets his arm cut off." Like
Mhm.
that shit's fucking brutal, right?
Right.
How do you go about that process of actually like detailing those things to meet what you want to convey?
That's a great question. You have to trust in what you've written and that it is clearly understood. You also have to be willing to not be married to every single thing that you wrote in a script. You also have to learn not to, at least with me, I want the reputation of someone who's very easy to work with. You work within not, I don't want to say parameters. I never want to handcuff an artist, and I say that up front. I will give you suggestions and offer like advice or like, hey, maybe move this here. This would look better here. Like that blue cover, as I call it, did not
Mhm.
have a severed penguin head. I asked for that to be added. I gave Eamon almost no input on. I said, bro, go crazy. Like, I was like, here's the story. Do what you want, and that's what I got. I know that you've seen it, Nick. I don't know if you've seen it, Brody, but the variant cover for issue 2
Yeah.
is done by a guy named Frederick Hornen. He's over in Germany, and I let it. He read issue 1, asked me what I wanted to do. He gave me 5 sketches. I picked one. I know they were rough sketches, and like and like, that's what he gave me. So like I'm very easy to work with, and but like there are some things that like I'm adamant about. Um, the right eye is the laser eye. The
Mhm.
left arm is the one that gets cut off, so that the left arm has to be the cyborg arm. So like if you're doing a cover or you're doing sketches or something like that, like those are canonically the things that have to remain the
Continuity
same.
is key here.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you notice on that cover, like he sort of has like a cable homage. Like
Yes.
I'm fine with that. Like that, I have no qualms with that whatsoever. But again, it was the eye and the arm; those have to be the same.
Mhm.
But like when you write a script, obviously like there's ways to do it. I sort of just like wrote it out where like panel 1, or like page 1, panel 1, or page 1, like panel 2, and then like you give descriptives and then you write your dialogue. There's a part in issue 2 where I literally just wrote training montage, and then so just for some people
Hell
that
yeah.
will work, and then but Hugo was like, I need more detail, and I'm like, okay. I said, I think my exact words in the script were training montage, go crazy, 1 page to sort of do what you want, and then like we had to go back and forth of like, okay, like what do you want to do? All right, so like let's throw in some Easter eggs and homages to things like there's a Matrix homage, there's an Incredible Hulk homage, there's a Batman homage, there's all sort of like little Easter eggs on that page, but like I didn't want to wait. Again, you have 28 pages to tell a story, and it's very like I did not want to waste any space on anything that I did. And so going back and forth, and like there was some parts in issue 1 where he was very like adamant about, I think this will look better. I think this will, and you have to trust it. You have to trust it.
Yeah.
And like There are no pages. There is like a couple of things I'm very close to it. So there are things that I could point to and pick out that like almost no one will see.
Right.
Uh, and you just have to go with it, dude. And like I'm literally just doing it and I'm learning as I go and everything. I got just like the whole Kickstarter process, everything about it, and creating a comic book. Like it's funny because it's like, oh, I've played video games my whole life. I can make a video game. Okay. I've read comic books my whole life. I can make a comic book. Okay. Try it.
Yeah, do it.
Try it. Go right ahead and see how far you get. Because it's crazy. Like there's so much work. But I will say that like everything that happens, all the bullshit that happens and everything, all the stress you have to deal with, the first time that you hold something that was in your brain and you hold it for the first time is unbelievable. It's not like holding your baby for the
Yeah.
first time. That's a completely different feeling. But this is like something that is just like indescribable almost because like when I got the proof of the first issue and looked through it, I blacked out. I was flipping through the pages, but I didn't see anything. It was just like this holy shit moment, and like your brain doesn't process what you're holding. That this thing is like this was yours. Like no one can take it away from you. You made this thing. And I then had to like, oh, okay. Then I had to like look through it and like look and see like, okay, like this page needs to be moved up because again, dimensions on a page and like all these other things and measurements and like, oh, what about the bleed that goes into this? And do you want this to be cut off? Like, I'm telling you, dude, it's just like you get so much information and it's admirable. Like, there are times where I'm like, I wish there was someone else that could handle some of this stuff, but I'm a bit of a control freak in that sense. Even though I'm a control freak, I'm very easy to work with. It's weird that dynamic shouldn't work. But like you just learn, dude. You just learn as you go, and it is an extremely gratifying experience. And like I wrote it in that thing too. Like I understand that like what I did is a big deal. Anyone can do a Kickstarter, but that doesn't mean that everyone can do a Kickstarter, right? Like you
Yeah.
have the ability, but like unless you have like a cog or like you're a cog, unless you have a machine behind you spinning the cogs for you, people don't realize how hard it is and how much work goes into it. Because like you talked about, it's like, oh my gosh, it's 28 pages to tell the story. If you want to look at it, I worked on this thing for 10 years. If you want to look at it in an actual reality, I worked on it for 10 months for 5 minutes, 6 minute endorphin hit. Is it worth it? Absolutely, it's fucking worth it.
Dude, to me, so the only thing I could ever equate this to, and stop me if I'm wrong, this seems to me like how I felt about the music I was making. The first time I had my CD in my hand, that we were
Yeah.
signed to a label, it was like, here's your boxes. You guys go sell these now. And I held my CD up, and I was like, dude, the thing I am literally in my brain before my wife, I am married to this as well. And it's because of the team that I made these compromises with, the right team that I made compromises and sacrifices with about either my creative vision or this and that. It was the importance. That was the difference maker there. And that's what it seems like to make a comic, a Kickstarter at this level. It's the team that you had behind you. It's your artist. It's the compromise that you, as the creative in your brain, had to go, I just have to let go and just trust. And that's what this seems like to me. It's like the marriage. It's like you are married to this book, this character. I mean, these are your children on page to a degree.
Yep.
And that is the beauty behind it, and the passion that you have behind it is the same passion I can remember having when I felt, that physical thing that I had created with 5 other dudes at one point. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, no way. This is mine. I did this.
And no one can ever take it away
No
from
one can ever take it away from you unless you put it on Spotify and they want to pay you for it. But
you. Yeah.
how was it hard for you to learn that compromise? Because for me, it was hard.
Oh yes.
That compromise
Yes.
was one of the most difficult things. When someone would go, well, this doesn't work here, and I'd go, well, I know it fucking works there because I wrote it that it fucking works there. And then you take a step back and you're like, maybe that doesn't work there. Okay. And then
Right.
how hard was that for you, the creative, to learn that compromise?
It was pretty easy in the beginning, but once the Kickstarter was finished, and it's like, okay, now there's an obligation. Now there's a fulfillment that has to be done. now now it's not that it wasn't treated seriously. It's like there's a different mindset. It's like you do the Kickstarter to see if you can do it. Okay, well the Kickstarter was done. I have the money that Kickstarter pays me after their fee, and it's like, all right, now, okay, I've written all these things because like for a long time we were just living in those first like 6 pages because like I'm not gonna pay him for a bunch of sketches, pages that don't get made, right?
Right.
Uh, and so once we kicked it into gear, and it's like, okay, now that we have the funds, we have this pile of money to make this thing that I'm gonna pay you to do. It wasn't as hard. It was hard, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be. My issue is that I'm impatient, and I want like I sit here. I've written it. I've done everything. I've got all the Kickstarter stuff ready. Like it's ready. Like I've got all the boxes of stuff. So what the fuck am I gonna do for 4 months?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh my gosh, like yeah, I'm checking my WhatsApp every day when I wake up because like he works in the night, and it's like, are there any pages? Goes a couple, 4 or 5 days, no updates. I'm like, yo, what's the update,
What's
man?
the word?
So then like it's a trust process, and you have to learn. And like I think we work really well together. I am not I I'm very hard headed. I'm often accused of being set in my ways, but I have learned that it does take more than just me, because if I was the artist it would be different if I was doing it all, but like like you said, there's a team of people. And I would also like to point out that like without the group of people that I have surrounded myself with and the supporting cast, it also doesn't get funded, because I had people who believed in me and were like, hey, I know somebody that's doing a Kickstarter. Holy shit. Like, and it's a vulnerable feeling to sort of like put yourself out there, but like at the end of the day, no one else was going to make this. And I really wanted to see it, and I want to see it through. Like, that's the thing, is like, I've had people ask me like, well, what happens if the Kickstarter for issue 2 fails? Well, it's not going to. It's not going to, because
Fuck
the
yeah.
mindset, it's not going to fail. Now, will there be times where I'm worried about it? Are there days where like I can get into my own head where like, there's not enough people that are on the pre-launch page. There's just like you start to like convince yourself, because I am pessimistic in nature, because I always grew up just like with always expecting the rug to be pulled out from underneath me, but like secretly I'm very confident in what I've done. I know that I've created this really rad thing, but the hardest thing about this out of everything is getting people to read it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink the water. It is so fucking hard. Like so fucking hard, because like my art stands out. It's a fucking weird enough like rad thing. Like again, like you go to Kickstarter, everybody has giant tits on it, so like they all look the same. I have no giant tits in mine, and I have this cyborg polar bear. Like it is a fairly unique thing in and of itself, but getting again, like it's just right place, right time, finding the right person that's like, hey, and like, dude, I wholeheartedly appreciate everyone that buys a copy. Like, it's just unbelievable, because like you're taking a risk. A digital is $3. A physical is what, $5.
Yep.
The problem is that shipping costs are just terrible. So like you bought a $5 book at the end of the day, and like shipping for me when I send it to you all is $6. You only paid 5. I make $4 on the book, right?
Right.
So like because like if you see shipping for $10, you're not going to buy it. So
Right.
like you have to learn to eat cost. You also have to do this thing and be like, you have to have the right mindset. It's not a delusions of like, well, I'm gonna be the next fucking Scott Snyder. I'm the next Daniel Warren Johnson. I'm doing this, and like I'm gonna be the next fucking comic book writing god. Like you can't have that. I literally am treating it like a hobby, because that is what it is at this point. My livelihood is not based upon it. I have a civilian job. I have a family. I have to pay bills. I have to do all these other things. So like I have a very, very expensive hobby that is sort of adamant on other people sort of joining in on that hobby. But you know you just gotta go, man. If I can operate and like I don't have to be in the green, but if I as close to the black
The
line as possible,
threshold. Yeah.
Yeah.
because I'm not doing it for money. I'm really not.
You
Yeah.
may not have giant tits, but you do have a cod piece on our boy that
Yes,
begs the
dude.
question. That's you know what I'm going for. I'm not gonna go there.
So I know, and my buddy Jacob is always like, "Bro, you should embrace the furry community." I'm like, "That's fine. Like
Oh,
they
it's
can
coming.
embrace it. I don't have to. Like I don't have to like go in that direction. But if they want to, by all means,
It's coming.
do it.
Uh,
Dude,
Like that.
I would say Martha was probably pretty close to a furry awakening for
I
some
mean,
people.
I
I
mean,
would imagine. Like not not the
well,
huge
like
tit variety that you were
right.
talking about earlier, but I mean, I could see it.
But like the thing is like if you have anthropomorphic animals, I mean, how are you supposed to
you
differentiate
have you
females
have
from
you
males?
Yeah,
have to
you
go
have
that
to.
route.
You
You
have
got to
to,
But it
do it.
right?
wasn't done distastefully. Everything
No, it was
again,
not.
everything in the book is like, oh, that makes sense. To me, I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense. You got Junior, you got the family.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
All makes sense.
Oh,
It's all
absolutely.
But
at the beginning
but
of
that's
this.
because it's a comic though. For me,
Yeah,
I can
Yes.
look at this and go, yeah, of course this is happening. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And the other thing, like this book itself and where we're going with it, because we are deep in the episode now. I do want
Sorry.
you to. I don't give a fuck. I do want you to go in depth with the next Kickstarter, but again, this is something I would have seen in the 90s or 2000s on a shelf. This is something I would see. I could imagine Adult Swim. You know, I was like, I mean, dude, I could see this on Adult Swim as an
Primal.
animated thing. Like,
Be
exactly.
sweet.
Primal.
That's
It'd be so fucking cool.
Exactly. That's exactly. I was like, dude, if this was an animated thing as well, like, this would be
yeah.
fucking.
You are not the first person to
Yeah.
say that.
Like,
Yeah.
but that's what stuck out to me. Like, this is, again, when you've brought up real comic, this is a. I'm not, again, not fluffing you, but this is a real comic. I'm
Oh,
holding it and I'm reading it and I can see the
sure.
art. It's a real
Right.
fucking book. You don't need to be with Marvel, DC,
No.
any of that to have. You did it. That
Right.
is important. So that's a big middle finger to a lot of these fucking chuds out there. You
I
know?
have never been one to follow the status quo on things. I am naturally a contrarian, so to speak. I don't do things because other people do them. I like growing up, I loved hockey and pro wrestling. There was no one who like it was taboo. Even in the 90s wrestling was still kind
Yeah.
of taboo, right?
Yeah.
And like
Oh,
especially
absolutely.
especially hockey. And like these are just things that I still liked. I didn't talk about it to anybody, but like I don't let others dictate what I'm into, right? And so this whole process too with a Kickstarter is I've run into we won't say issues. There are the way you play the game is a certain way. I'm not a big fan of the way that game is played.
Yeah.
So like now does that limit my exposure? Absolutely. But my mindset is a little different than most. And and maybe it's just the nature in which I view this project over others. But we can talk about it more off mic because again,
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything that would be considered uncouth. As far as issue 2, it's hard in a sense that like there are things that it's not that it came up really fast because I'm always jotting down things that like I already know some things I want to do with issue 3, like as far as the Kickstarter. But like this one, I will like a lot of Kickstarters will do. Hey, if you pledge $100, we'll put you in the background of our book. Well, I have a problem there. There are no human beings in my book. Well, there's one. There's one.
Make
But
me into a polar bear. I'm in.
right. So like I was like thinking, what can I do? Because I was a little over ambitious with my first one with the bust. Right. I only did 10 of them. I did 11. One of them's mine. Naturally. But 10 people got one, and it sold out in like 5 minutes. Like the
Beautiful.
people snatched it up. Most of them were my close friends, so that also helped. So like I knew that there was people who actually gave a shit. Um, and so like I was not struggling, but trying to find an incentive like for my big tier because I wanted to ask for less money this time and hopefully get more people, right? Because my first one was $5,050 is what my goal was, and that's a lot of money running your first Kickstarter. But again, I think people fail to realize that like I am the writer and the creator, but I don't do the art, and I have to pay an artist. And it
Right.
goes
Yeah.
back to that the art that I pay for is very good and it's very expensive. Now, is it expensive? It's expensive to like people who don't do it, but like it's pretty much the industry standard for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So again, Mortal Kombat a giant influence. There is a lot more violence in this book, in this issue, but one of the things that I ended up deciding on as the sort of big tier is you get to participate in the way a character is killed.
That's
And
cool.
it's basically if you get to choose
Hell
the
yeah.
you get to choose the fatality, but I can't use the word fatality, right? For copyright reasons. And it's been narrowed down to 4. No one's seen the character yet because the character will be introduced. If you back that, you will get to see the character first. You will get to see sketches, like rough sketches of the 4, and you get to vote, and it will work. Majority wins, like whatever it is. But so like I have to do the Kickstarter because I have to get the votes. Like it's not something I can just like do. And I thought it was a really cool thing and neat. And like I hadn't seen it done before. And I have it. I don't have the prices finalized, but it's going to be somewhere like $80, and that's going to get you 3 books. It's going to get you 3 covers, a fucking Pog because I'm bringing Pogs
Hell
back,
yeah.
Let's
and
go.
you get and then you'll get either a button or a sticker that's like I'm only printing the amount that's needed to fulfill the Kickstarter order, like very limited.
Yeah.
And it's gonna say like I voted or I participated or whatever, and it's sort of like kind of fits in with like the U.S. election or whatever. It's like I voted, but it's whatever. And then like you'll get updates that other people won't get. You'll get to see the character sketches, you'll get to participate, like all those sort of things. But like it's not a lot. I mean, 80,
It's not.
$85, something like that. I think
Yeah.
the shipping is going to be the worst part about it because it's based off
I got
weight.
a credit card.
Yeah, and so, but like at the end of the day, you're getting 3 versions of issue 1, and you get to your choice matters sort of deal as much as it
Right.
can, right?
You're a
Like,
part of the book at that point to a degree.
right,
And
right. And
that
so,
who does that? You.
yeah,
You
yeah,
fucking do.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Like I just thought it would be really, really fucking cool. And even the guy who edits my book, Ben, he's like, it's a pretty fucking rad idea. He's like, I'm not gonna
Oh
lie. He's like,
yeah.
that's really fucking cool. And I'm like, yeah, but like that's an undertaking, right? That's a whole undertaking in itself. But I think it's gonna be fucking rad when we do it because I've got like I want to talk about the character so bad because there's only like 3 people that know about it. But like, I
Yeah.
you don't have to show your hands
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah.
I will tell you this much: it is a moose, but it's not just a moose.
Bro.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Because like what animal could theoretically just like give a polar bear a run for its money just in a straight up fist fight if they were
Yeah.
to fist fight, and it would be like because a moose don't fuck around.
No, moose don't fuck around, bro.
Yeah, so there's a little bit more to it, and then like again, like if you look at 001, who is very very inspired by Bane, why is he all jacked up? I don't know. We'll
Dude,
see. You know,
lots to
why
figure out.
why is Oswald like fucking Dr. Robotnik and he's in a mech suit, Like they're all there. I will tell you this. You guys are Doom fans.
Yes.
There's a Doom Easter egg in the page 10, page 11,
Of issue 1?
2.
Okay. I
Okay.
will say I did.
Okay.
I'll say I
You-
know. I know these
No,
eyes
there's
would
a
have
there's a
caught.
ton of Easter eggs in this one because like the first like 8 pages are in someone's workshop, and so like there's things that you can play around with in
That's
there.
fucking awesome. That is fucking
'Cause, we
awesome.
it's just fucking having a blast doing this thing, dude. Like it
Yeah.
really, like it's one of these passion projects. It's just
It's coming
I
to
can't
life.
I can't believe I like at the end of the day, I can't believe there was enough people that were willing to be like, fuck yeah, like this sounds cool. There's even people that I know that don't give a fuck about comics that are just like, I believe in you and this thing that you're doing, and they just fucking threw some bones my way, and it's just like hell yeah, let's
Yeah.
go.
Well, I
It's
know you
awesome.
Our
got
mutual
us.
buddy David Craddock backed it.
David
Yeah.
Craddock's a phenomenal dude. He has been a
Mhm.
driving behind the scenes voice of like, hey man, things might not be going your guys' way right now, but you guys got this. Take deep
Yep.
breaths.
Yeah.
Keep doing your interviews. Keep hitting people up, and he's such a good guy. Like, there's
Yeah.
so many people in the community gaming comics. Some people in the gaming and comics community kind of can
Yeah.
go their separate ways.
Well,
Most people though that we've met, fucking phenomenal. But we are at an hour and 10. I want to give. Is there anything else you want to talk? You wanted to bring up about your beautiful? Okay, last time. Just buy it on the Big Cartel. Your book and the Kickstarter. Is there anything else you want people to know about? And plug your podcast, man. Just go for it.
By the way, did you fill like Jack? Did you fill it on the front? It's raised.
I saw the fucking no way.
So like if you take it out, fill like where like some of the fur is. It's not furry, but like
Yeah.
it's raised.
Well, I fucking.
And you can look at it in the light and you can see where it's raised. Like some of the
Well,
black.
I could
the black.
see near the cod piece.
Yeah.
Bitch, I knew I caught that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So, if you want to buy issue 1, it's it's oh god, I always get it backwards. It's like
It'll be
Polar
in the
Destroyer.
link.
It's polardestroyer.bigcartel.com if you want an issue 1. Now, I will have a bundle, both digitally and issues 1 and 2 physically. It's probably better if you do it through the Kickstarter because you'll save on shipping basically. It'll be the regular cover of issue 1. I only have a few issues of the variant cover left. You can just search Kickstarter. I tried it before we got on here. I just typed in Polar Destroyer and it pops up. Both of mine pop up.
Cool.
So like it is Polar Destroyer issues 1 and 2. It's fucking I don't know if you can see it, but like there's a background. It's Polar, Frederick's little banner that he made for me. It's tentative at this point, but the second week in September. The original date was September 9th, but sometimes things happen behind the scenes and the schedule has to get moved around a little bit. But it will be, I mean, if it gets pushed, it'll get pushed like just a few days and
Cool.
like nothing like that. I am finishing up the graphics that go into it, finishing up. I'm gonna have somebody look it over when it's all said and done, make sure typos, support it, tell your friends about it, tell your enemies about it, help me out. My daughter didn't really understand what I was doing the first time I did it. She's 7 now. And so like she knows that I've created this comic book and she was just like, "Can I be in your book? Like, can I have my name in the book?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, you can."
Absolutely.
And she's like, "What if I give you money for it?" And I'm like, "Well, you don't have to do that." But she's like, "I want to." And like, it made me want to just like fucking cry because like that's the sweetest
Yeah.
thing in the
That
world.
rules, dude.
So like, if you don't back it, you're going to break her heart because her name.
Oh, you did that? You went that route?
was yeah.
Low
Yeah.
blow.
Beautiful. I enjoy it. Yeah.
I like it. I fuck with it.
Don't
Also, I
break
guess my
his
podcast too. That's
don't
called
break
What's Your
his
Spaghetti?
7-year-old daughter's heart.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
absolutely. And you better believe that I'm going to guilt trip people into that.
That's right.
We know where you
My
live.
my podcast, What's Your Spaghetti Policy, is it's myself and my very let's just call him an enigma, right? You've met Jacob.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. He's an oddball. And it's a fun, like, we just hang out, man. We just hang out for an hour every Wednesday and we just like talk about the dumbest shit possible. We talk about, we'll talk about like things in the news or whatever, Keanu Reeves is a hockey player for a day, those sort of things. We steer away from politics, obviously. We just try to like, it's the old school like radio talk show sort of
Yeah.
vibe, whatever. I did make a joke when I was running the campaign that I secretly started a podcast so that I could gather enough people into supporting a Kickstarter. It's the only reason I still do it.
That's the way to
For
go about it.
269 episodes.
Yeah, yeah. Which is a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think we're on
Absolutely.
218 right now. Something like
yeah,
that.
but between the
It's-
two shows, I don't even know how many.
Well, we've
I lost
missed
track.
weeks. We've missed weeks, so.
How dare you?
Yeah.
I have mental instabilities, and that's not
That's
a
okay.
lie. But no, dude, thanks again. We want to thank again,
Yeah.
Parkway Drive's #1 fan. I didn't forget.
I do love Parkway.
You do.
That's for sure.
I know. We talked about Parkway Drive for like almost 45 minutes after we ended the podcast that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just music in general. It was a good time. Dude, thank you again for hopping on though, for real.
Dude,
Thank
thanks
you
for having me.
This got here with haste. Buy the book,
I don't
dude.
I don't fuck around. I have a weird tick. If I see the email that someone I will drop what I'm doing and go pack it up and get it ready to ship.
I said Brody and I are buying the books. He goes, "Cool, I'm packing up too right now." I was like, "Oh fuck, okay." I was
Yeah.
like, "All right, that's bought."
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
just talking, mind you, holiday weekend, and he's like, "Yeah, it'll be there Tuesday," and he's like, "Maybe earlier if it gets there before the holiday, depending on the shipping thing." I'm like, That's fucking crazy. Like, I didn't expect it until like Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday even.
Yeah.
No, he dude's on his shit for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, go support him. This is fucking awesome. You have created something that I truly enjoyed. Again, huge comic book fan. We talked about Turtles before this. I have a full Marvel sleeve. This is fucking dope. Go support him for sure.
This was
Yeah.
a world that I very much so needed back in my life when it came to comics. I needed that escape. A lot, and we're gonna cap the show off, but a lot of comics now with the multiverse, and a lot of them are going the super serious fucking route, and I just needed
Yeah.
something that took itself serious enough, but also wanted to have fun with itself. I needed that. I needed a new world, and this is the world I got, and I'm fucking stoked that we reached out to each other and we're like, hey, just come on, let's do this. And
Yeah.
I'm stoked for issue 2. Please, everybody, Brody and I'm going for the $80 tier. There's no way I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be trying to come up with a very grotesque way to kill something. And I'm very stoked for issue 2. Please, guys, go to the Kickstarter. It'll be in the show description on the YouTube. It'll be in the description there. Go follow what's your spaghetti policy. I almost said Paschetti, so I
You
just
no, you didn't almost. You did.
I went with it. Go follow what's your spaghetti policy, dude. I almost did it again. Go do that. Check out, god damn it. Check out our sponsors, Final Boss and Doc Longy. Hop into the Discord. It's free. Fund this Kickstarter. Fund
Yeah.
this fucking Kickstarter. Brody and I are going to fund it. We fund every Kickstarter we talk about. So if we're funding it, you throw some money into it. Let's make cool shit happen in the world. That's important.
Hashtag Polardestroyer, because like the more people that do it, the more people can see it.
Let's do it.
You know, I can't do it without help.
Well, we're here, and I'm really hoping our community gets behind it, which I think they will. So everyone just hashtag Polar Destroyer. Let's do this. And until next week, guys, take it easy. Be safe.